Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you what I've been working on. We haven't been doing a whole lot of CNC projects, but we have been doing a remodel, and we're doing it with epoxy. Today we're going to transform this bar top to make it look like stone with epoxy. So let's get going. Okay, this was my first sample board, my first attempt at doing this, and I used a black paint and primer in one with a metallic silver to coat the epoxy. I didn't have my trowel yet, so I'm using a notched putty knife to spread out the epoxy. I can also tell you that I used way too much epoxy for the first color coat. Of course, I didn't know this at the time. You don't need near that much epoxy to get started. So then I started adding my accents. I started out with white, and this is just a little bit of epoxy that I coated with spray paint and added some copper touch to it, and went ahead and used my chop brush and chopped it all in. Again, my first attempt at it, I was trying to make it look marbleized. It did that, but I lost the accent of the paint. But first attempt. I did mess around with a couple other techniques using the spray paint on a putty knife, and then I tried it on the edge of a paint stick and just kind of pushing the paint through the epoxy that way, and that seemed to work a little bit better. Going back through with a little bit more of the copper accent, and I just wanted a touch of the copper to kind of match the red styling that we had on the cabinets there in the kitchen. Then of course you want to torch it out, get all the bubbles out. It kind of helps to move the epoxy a little bit, but the main thing you're doing with a torch here is just trying to get all the little bubbles popped. And you're going to want to torch it about 3 different times, probably 5-10 minutes in between torch sessions, and make sure there's no flies in it. Believe me, it happens more often than you think. Now after it dried overnight, I did go ahead and sand it lightly with some 220 to get it ready for our clear coat. Now the top coat, you're going to want to mix it the same way, you're just not going to add any color additives to it. And when you pour that on, do the same thing, trowel it down. Again, I probably used a little bit too much, even though I only used half of what I used in the color coat. But you're going to see a lot of white. It looks like it's a white. That's just all the air bubbles that have been entrained from the mixing. After you trowel it out and chop it out and torch it down, most of those white bubbles will go away. Key step that I forgot here, since this was my first trip around, is I forgot to chop out the clear coat. That does help break up any of the little fish eyes or dimples. It also helps to get the bubbles released. Just a little tip for you guys, and hopefully I'll remember it on the next one. The haziness did eventually clear up, and the piece did actually turn out really nice. I love the gleam of the lights and the mirror-like reflection. It turned out real nice. So I included this section to show you that on the back of one of them, I used Tyvek tape and went all the way around the edges and press sealed them real good. Now with that Tyvek tape, the drips come off real easy. You just knock off the drips and the tape peels right off. Now on the other one, I didn't use the tape, and you'll see that all the drips are on there will have to be sanded. And the thing about when you sand them down is you got to be real careful not to sand into the material, or then you might mess up your finish and have to start over. But the Tyvek tape is definitely a time saver, and I'll be using it going forward. Now for my last two sample boards, I got some professional help. The youngest member of our TNT creations, my 8-year-old son. He did pretty good on the board on the left there. Turned out real nice. Definitely has a lot more color than mine did. Now it was finally time to build our new bar top. So after we cut it out, glued it together, pin nailed it, set it up into place on the bar top, and then went ahead and finished it out using our multi-purpose Bondo to fill in the cracks. We also used the Bondo to make the rock face edges around the bar top. Put the Bondo on, and then you come back and give it some character, and then come back and sand it down, and it looks a lot like a rock faced edge. It wasn't the easiest thing to learn, but by the end of it I got the hang of it. I found that it was easier to use my glove than it was to use the spatula. This is how the edge turns out, and this is before the final sanding. And this is what it looks like after it's been sanded and you got your first coat of primer and paint on there. So after a light sanding, it's finally time for the fun part. This is where you get to use your spray paint and lay down your base coat of undertones. This situation we use probably 5 or 6 different colors, and I always go around the edges first to make sure you get some color in your edges, your rock face edge, and then over the top. And by the way, I want to give a quick shout out to the guys over at Stone Coat Countertops. Without their videos, I would have never had the nerve to do this on my own. So thank you guys over there. And to me, I like a little more subtle color, but when the boss lady says she wants lots of color, she gets lots of color. And then I had to bring Peyton back in here to give me a little relief and have him help me out here. Now I apologize here, I did not get the video of me mixing and laying out the epoxy and troweling it out. I thought the GoPro was on, but I was wrong. But I did get it after we troweled it out. Right here we are chopping it in and then starting to add our color. We did multiple levels of color, mixing them in, chopping them in, putting high definitions, and then coming back and just kind of glazing it over the top. I think it turned out real nice, and it was definitely a family project, so it's something that we'll remember. And we only had to remove one fly from the epoxy, which was great. So again, we torched it out, gave it about 5 minutes between torching, so came back and torched it again. And we did a little touch up in between torches, just stuff we wanted to change. I think overall it came out great. Not bad at all for our first real attempt at this. I love the metallic and the different way the paints and the metallics blended together. The marble that we put in there turned out real nice. I love the way it turned out. The bad news is now I've got about 4 or 5 other countertops that are going to have to match this now. But let's do one at a time on this. I want to thank you guys for sticking with the channel. We've got some more projects planned, and we'll keep you updated. See you next time.